Wow. These charts right now in the Forex market are stunning. I am so glad that my wife is not here right now because if she was about to hear some of the things that I'm about to say about these charts, she would probably divorce me. She'd probably leave. She'd take half of my shit and then I'd have to trade these charts even harder. And these charts would probably punish me by just making me lose every single trade after that anyway. So it would be completely fucked up. But I am seeing some amazing trading opportunities right now in the Forex market. I posted some of these here in my Telegram this morning. I even put this little trading idea for you guys right now. Let's look at it here. This is my free Telegram channel. I'll put a link in the description and the pinned comment. It's just where I share all my trades and analysis and I do fun little polls and shit like that. So check it out. Euro USD, I've got a markup here. Should we be buying at support right there, right? Because it technically is a break and retest of the support zone. I mean, right? Or should we be selling at resistance? Look, same chart, just a different random arbitrary rectangle drawn on it, right? So now you start wondering, okay, which one, right? Let's look at this one again. Buy at support. Or is this actually the zone? Is it a region? And should we be selling at resistance, even though we've leaked past it a little bit? I put this here in the Telegram channel. I said once we get 500 votes above, and I just posted this like 10 minutes ago, so we'll probably get it here pretty shortly. Once we get enough votes, I will tell you guys what I would actually be doing here. Would I be buying here? Would I be selling here? Would I be skipping this trade? And then for those of you who are just not sure, want to see the poll results, you just put that. So let us see exactly what happens here on Euro USD with this poll right here. And then I will let you guys know. I think it's going to surprise you guys what I would do. Because I'll tell you this right now, it's not sells. So and I'm not sure. See the poll results. It's not that one. So it's either I would buy or either I would skip this trade. Oh fuck! It already showed it right here with this check mark. Okay, never mind. Okay, yeah, I would skip this trade on Euro USD. We're gonna get into it here in this video. Let's get into a full, not recap, but let's get into a full outlook for this coming week. All right. CHF JPY, I am currently short on this beauty. She is so sexy. She is painfully sexy. If I was alone with CHF JPY right now, and I'm just saying this because my wife is not here. I don't think she's in the house. I'm here in my office. If me and CHF JPY were alone right now in a room, I would be whispering not sweet nothings into her ear. I'd be whispering sweet somethings. I'd be like, come on, girl, just go down. Just go down on me, girl. Bring it down. If she started bouncing here, oh man, I would be so excited. This trade right here, I've risked about, I believe I have $50,000 of risk on this at the moment for a potential $130,000 profit if we go to the profit target. So really looking forward to see what happens. She's looking amazing. I mean, on the weekly and daily, this is a weekly chart. The screenshot was from this morning here in my Discord server. We had bounced there's resistance, broke above, bounces support, broke back below. Now we found resistance, even trying to break above last week, but coming down here with a bearish candle closure there at the zone. So that is that's what I call a double whammy, right? Because it's like at the resistance zone and then it's like a pin bar, a bearish pin bar candle. This is like, it's like a double because it's got two things that help with the bias for the, it's okay. It's fine. So a sell right there on CHF JPY. That's currently sitting in a little bit of profit right now. It's basically just getting started, right? This is basically break even, but she is starting to bounce here. So let's see if she actually ends up going down a little bit more. That would be great. It's still looking amazing for now. She's still holding this as resistance right here. This was the little wick we saw from last week on the weekly candle. Price came up into this region, came back down below. So it closed and painted that wick there. This is a pretty nice, sexy zone. So I'm short on CHF JPY. I've been short since last week, and I will be continuing to be short this week. Short on the chart. I'm actually not super short in real life. In real life, I'm about 6 foot tall. On a good day, I'm just a hair above 6 foot. But on a weird day, I'm actually like 5'11 and 3/4. But I will be short on on a CHF JPY in the charts right here. So USD CHF, this is another super, wow, this is so painful. Oh my gosh, I'm just looking at this chart right now. Please forgive me if I start salivating and drooling all over this microphone. Oh, that would be so weird. We're not even gonna get into that. You guys are nasty. You need to stop doing that. I'm trying to make a YouTube video here. You need to focus. You need to let me make my video without distracting me. Thank you. I'd really appreciate that. Okay. So CHF, USD CHF, I'll be looking to sell here at this zone. Why? Because whenever we just draw the arbitrary rectangle of truth and justice, price has bounced there at resistance. Okay. We're here on the daily chart. This is not super complicated. We bounced as resistance there. We did it again. I mean, we sort of did it here, but it didn't really come all the way up in there, to be honest, to just be fair. We broke above the zone, came back, bounces, support. She was getting a lot of support. She had a lot of supporters there. I was one of her supporters as well, personally, on USD CHF. And then she came back here, broke below. I bought right there. I actually lost this trade last week. I lost $60,000 on this last week. I lost $380,000 in total, which is just horrible. It's so bad. It's going to take me like a month or two to make all that back. Maybe even more, but we'll see what happens. I lost this trade right here because I bought there at that zone. And then we broke below, but now we're coming back up here for redemption. I like to call this good old sweet revenge whenever I revenge trade, which it's not actually revenge trading, unless if you're using 2% of your brain. Price is broken below the support level. It's coming back up here to retest it as resistance. And then if we start bouncing those resistance, guess what I'm going to do? Use your creative imagination. It's coming up into a resistance zone and it's on the daily chart. What do you think I'm going to do? Yes, I'm going to sell. I'm going to be looking to sell there at the zone. What will it look like? It might look something like this, right? It just depends on a lot of the specifics and shit, like exactly where I enter. It could be higher, it could be lower, right? But I'll enter somewhere around this region. Stop loss, where would be a good spot? Probably right here is fine. That would be a little bit too close for me. I think probably right there is fine. And then take profit at 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. So fortunately here, it doesn't even have to go and break the next low. So I could structure it something like that. So if it just falls back to the previous low, that would be great. So that is what I will be waiting for on USD CHF coming into this week. Now, there's one last thing we got to kind of address here. Is it an elephant in the room? Maybe not a fully grown elephant. Maybe it's like a baby elephant in the room right now, because some of you guys are thinking, well, Nick, hold on, bro. You're going to be short on CHF-JPY, but then they're going to also be short on USD CHF. Now, the argument here is that it is currency correlation. Okay, it is inverse currency correlation. What does that mean? It means that on these pairs, CHF-JPY and USD CHF, they are inversely correlated, right? There's conversely correlated currencies, which is NZD-JPY, GBP-JPY, USD-JPY, AUD-JPY, Euro-JPY, NIC-JPY. There's all the JPY pairs. Those are conversely correlated pairs. Inversely correlated pairs are pairs where it's opposite. So, for example, USD-JPY, Euro USD, right? USD is in the quote currency in EU, but in UJ, USD is in the base currency, right? So here CHF JPY, we got CHF in the base currency, and then we also have CHF in the next one, but it's in the quote currency. So all this means is that generally speaking, you see them do a little bit of the opposite kind of moves day to day. What does that mean? Let's just look. CHF JPY. When CHF JPY spikes up, right? It goes and rockets up. We've got a lot of momentum on up. That puts the opposite pressure on the inversely correlated asset. Okay. So CHF JPY, if CHF is going up, that means for USD CHF, it's going to be dragging this pair down a little bit. Okay. So we saw that happen as well. So that's all that means. So this comes into play. It comes into question to say, all right, if they kind of do more or less, generally speaking, the opposite things, at least short term, right? Long term, it's a different story. But if they kind of do the opposite things short term, should we be selling on USD CHF right here if we're also selling on CHF JPY? Because if we're selling on CHF JPY and this actually drops down, that's actually going to put the opposite pressure on USD CHF, which will cause price to go to the upside. So what do we do? It's kind of spooky. Do we just ignore the trade? Do we blindfold ourselves and pretend like it's all a bad dream? We absolutely do not do that. What I do is I just generally trade no more than, this is a very big range, right? It's a very big if. No more than 1 to 2 correlated assets per once. No more than 1 to 2 correlated assets at once. So what that means is usually I'll try to stick to one asset at a time. And then if I take a second or third trade, I just want to make sure they're not like correlated, right? I want to make sure be something like taking CHF JPY and then literally trading anything else that doesn't have CHF or JPY in it. For example, CHF JPY and then trade AUD USD. And then potentially even Euro NZD, right? That would be a one that's just not correlated to those other ones at all. Forex, there's like 24 to 26 major and minor FX pairs. They're all so intricately correlated, and you'll see all sorts of shit fly around with each other. So it all kind of like leaks through, and everything's kind of correlated assets. However, I've just found if I just kind of stick to one, maybe max two at a time, I've always been fine, right? You don't want to be going into like 5 different trades on all the JPY pairs and selling all of them at the same time, because you're basically taking the same trade but with 5 times the risk. If one of those JPY pairs shoot up, all the others are likely to do it as well. Cool. All right, there's your lesson in currency correlation for today. So will I be taking this? Yes, I probably will still take it because it is its own independent trading idea, independent of what happens on CHF JPY. I'm only right half the time, right? I'm right half the time, I'm wrong half the time. So it doesn't really matter which way it goes. Whatever way these happen to go, I'm probably going to make a little bit more when I'm right versus what I lose when I'm wrong. Because if this breaks above the zone, I get out a little bit earlier, right? And, in most cases. And if we start going into profit, I hold it to the profit target. I make more on average when I win than I lose whenever I'm wrong. So that's that for USD CHF. I'll be looking to sell. The fact that we're correlated to CHF JPY, instead of risking 100K in USD CHF, which is kind of my max risk threshold at the moment, I'll probably just be risking like 50K on USD CHF. And we're going to want to see some rejection first as well. Get up here into the zone, hit the area, start to bounce. We'll kind of want to see that first. And then we'll see which way she goes. We'll see how she plays. Who knows? Could be a little fun. Could be a little mean. AUD USD. Now, this almost set up. Almost. She almost came here to this resistance zone. You can see I've got an alert here. I set up this zone last week. Resistance, resistance, a little bit of leakage, right? But still resistance. Resistance, resistance, broke above, came back, broke right back below, and then found resistance, resistance, resistance again. Now we've come back up into this region, but she has not come quite all the way up to where I'd want it to go. If I was to move this down here, right, and we were to use hindsight, we'd say, oh, Nick, you see, it was still technically a fine trade. Shut up. Because this is the zone that I had drawn. And, nothing's going to be perfect. Price is not perfect. But I like to wait on the most optimal entries. That way, whenever I get in, I can have a stop just past the zone and then a target down below. And it makes things easier, right? Long term. It makes the risk structure better. There's less potential of loss. There's more potential for more profit. Or let's just say there's a potential for more profit versus what the loss could be if you just wait for really good entries. If I had entered, after it started rejecting and then it's down here, right, my trade would have looked some shit like this, like selling there. Stop loss above this zone, target at 1-to-1. I'm not even having a target like past the next set of lows, which is this zone. It's just, there's nothing wrong with it, like technically, right? Because there's really no right and wrongs in trading to begin with. It's all kind of up in the air. But it's, this is not as good, right? It's not as good a risk structure as something like this, where instead of doing this bullshit here, what if I wait for an entry at the zone so then I can enter at the zone? And what if I just use the exact same stop loss, right? Just the exact one as the first one. Now, my profit target, only for a 1-to-1, it only has to be right here. If I'm right about this trade, if we just have a little simple bounce, which we have every single time we've been here, with just the exception of when we wicked above the zone there, and then when we finally had the breakout above this zone. We had the breakout, we fell back, and then, pushed back. Okay, so we had the breakout, but literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times we've bounced there without shooting really far off, with the exception of when we broke out and that wick over there. If that happens here, right, if we just have a little tick away from this zone, if it just gets up into the zone and it's just like, boop. That's what I do to my dog sometimes. I touch her nose and I go, boop. So if we go boop over here to AUD USD, please God, hope she doesn't fuck us. then she'll bounce here. She'll go to the 1-to-1 risk reward profit target, and you're off to the races, and everything is fine and dandy because you didn't enter below the zone like a dumbass. So while this alert did not get triggered for me and I didn't take this trade, it is perfectly fine. I would rather keep my money in my pocket and shut the fuck up instead of getting into a trade that has a shit risk structure. Remember, I am not profitable because I can predict which way the Forex market is going, or the crypto market, or the stock market, or any fucking market on earth. Nobody knows what's going to happen. That's important for you to recognize. You will not be profitable because you can predict what will happen. No, quite the contrary. I am profitable because I happen to make more money when I win versus the amount of money that I lose when I'm wrong. If that statement were not true, I wouldn't be profitable. So therefore, you shift your perspective from trying to predict where the fuck price is going to go, which is a fool's errand, by the way. It's a fool's pursuit. You shouldn't do it. It's retarded. Go work at McDonald's if you're going to do that. And instead, you shift your focus from the prediction and speculation over to the risk structure and risk tolerance and risk parameters. And you're basically just structuring things from a risk perspective instead of a speculatory, is that even a fucking word? Instead of from the perspective of speculating and trying to predict. Okay. No one can predict shit. Even if you can, you're better off just flipping a coin, because at least you know you'll be right half the time. I've seen people try to predict shit and they're right 30% of the time. And it's just, I'm like, bro, you get better results if you just flip the coin. Okay. So I didn't enter here because price didn't come all the way into that region. I'm waiting for that to happen. And if not, we'll come down here and I'll look to buy here at this support zone. Where exactly? Maybe something like that. Probably something like that. Let me go ahead and set an alert here. I think this would be a perfectly fine area to buy. Very clearly as resistance here, except for that little wick way above. Broke above, found support. Broke down below, came back above, found resistance recently a couple days ago. Now we broke above, and if we come back, great. I'll look to buy there. NZDJPY, same shit as AED USD. I won't spend a long time harping on about this, but she missed the zone entering down here with the stop above. Target is 1-to-1 way down here. That's a shit risk structure compared to just waiting for it to get all the way to the highs, entering there, having a stop loss just above the zone in the exact same place it would have been if I'd entered down here. But now my 1-to-1 target only has to be like maybe to the right here in this region instead of down here maybe. So I'm still waiting on price to get up here, and I'll look to sell there at the resistance zone. GBPJPY, I don't know if I'm really looking for this. I don't even have my alert set here. I don't really know how I feel about this trade. I think I'm just gonna fuck off from GBPJPY. I'm just gonna leave it alone. So yeah, Euro USD. This is the funny one. I will tell you guys. You know what? I'll tell you guys at the end of this video if I would take Euro USD. Or no, we already saw this. Yeah, I would skip the trade on Euro USD. Euro USD has presented me just too much bullshit the past week to trust her. Right? Originally, I was selling here at this weekly resistance zone down here. The zone was like basically something like this right here. So it had bounces resistance, found support. We'd come back up in here. I sold at resistance. She started kind of trickling above the zone. Then again, of course, this is not an exact region. Zones are, price is not perfect. So I was selling up here inside this zone in the weekly chart. She just didn't bounce, right? She came up here that week. I entered second, third week. So I held this trade like 2.5 weeks before I finally closed out and got stopped out when we started breaking above the zone. She didn't work out. Now, is she going to bounce here at this next weekly resistance zone? There's two of them, okay? There's one right here and there's one just above price right here. I am currently waiting on this one right here. As you can see, I have an alert right there. Let me just fucking put this alert in real quick. You see how I've had this alert here from when I pulled up this screenshot right here, this trading view chart. I already had that alert. Please do not focus on the fact that I just added it. But I'll be waiting for price to go further up here so I can sell at this resistance zone. Am I looking to do anything right here? Fuck no. It looks like a pretty clear zone, right? Like it looks pretty nice, honestly. It really does. It's clearly resistance there. It's clearly support here. It's clearly resistance here twice. Why wouldn't you want to buy here? Or why wouldn't you want to sell here, right? Look, if you just extend the zone up a little bit higher, you just play some mental gymnastics and just bullshit yourself. Then you say, okay, it's rejecting there as resistance. And you're not wrong. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's just a matter of, is it a trade worth taking? Whenever I get too many conflicting perspectives, which is kind of hilarious because too many just means like two. That's all it means. Because like, look, when you're on a chart, right, and you get one perspective, you're like, okay, there's a resistance zone here and price is in the resistance zone and it's starting to bounce. Okay, that's one perspective. That's the least amount of shit is likely to fuck up if you do that. If you just focus on those types of trades. When you start getting into trades where it's like, well, I don't know, bro, I think it's a resistance, but the resistance could also be a little bit further up, but it could also be a support zone where it could go up. So now you're like, should I buy? Should I sell? Maybe I should just buy and sell at the same time. You guaranteed not lose money. Like, right, then you start getting into all these mental gymnastics. So when there's too many perspectives, meaning just literally two or more, if you're crazy delusional and you've got like all this shit drawn on like a chalkboard behind you and all these lines connecting the dots of all this crazy like, theological and miscellaneous and just like delusional schizophrenic shit. I mean, if that's your thing, cool. But generally, there's one of two outcomes for me, which is it's going to go up or it's going to go down. And it's probably not going to go sideways forever. So we just kind of just take that out. So it's going to go up or it's going to go down. In this case, if I'm like, okay, it could go down because it's resistance and it's rejecting with these two daily bearish wicks, but we could also be literally, I mean, it's literally bouncing at support right here. It's coming to the support zone and testing. So what are we going to do? Are we going to break below or are we going to go up? If it starts to become too ambiguous like that, right? Too like delusionally paranoid, schizophrenic type of shit, I find better results just deleting that from the thing and deleting this from the thing and then just drawing a big middle finger on the chart and saying, I'm just going to wait for the next zone. Because when you start getting into regions like this up here, right, prices, it's just so much clearer and easier, right? And this is basically a zone that's I mean, it's pretty similar to the first one I sold at down here, right? So this zone right here where I sold down here, it's pretty similar to this region up here. Yes, we have some leakage above it right here. I say some, that's a huge fucking weekly wick all the way up there. But we came back below, came and tested a bounce. That was nice. Bounced again, broke above, came back, tested support, couldn't make any new highs, fell back below the zone, bounced down here as support, broke back up, tested as resistance once, and then looks like twice. And then finally there's a third time here as we bounced away. I mean, this is just such a more reliable zone. So when we're presented with things like that versus things like this, where you're starting to get like worried, like, man, I don't know, dude, looks like it's going to be bouncing. Here's support, but it could also be resistance, brother. I'm not here to flip a coin on that, right? I'm here to just, I mean, I'm technically still flipping a coin because I'm right only half the time, but I'm going to flip my coin on the stuff that has a good risk structure, brother. I ain't going to do no stupid shit out here. Meaning I'm just going to focus on clear support resistance zones, buying at clear support zones, selling at clear resistance zones with a 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. That's literally all I do. I mean, sometimes I use a higher risk reward ratio. Sometimes I close my winning trades early. I'm a very bad boy. My wife spanks me when I do that, which kind of incentivizes me to close winning trades earlier, which is a bad trading habit, but it balances out my sex life because I get whipped by my wife for being a bad boy when I trade. Let's go to the next trading opportunity. I'm talking about my sex life. You nosy motherfuckers. Why are you sitting here trying to make me talk about that? Why are you listening to me? Why did you not leave this video when I started talking about that? That is so shady. That is so weird. You guys are a bunch of pedophiles watching this video. All of you. Oh my God. Okay, Euro USD. So I'll be waiting for this. I'll be waiting for this zone up here. USD JPY. Now, I don't see anything here. I don't. Some people are saying this is a resistance zone up here. You're not wrong. I mean, it's technically a region where prices tried to bounce a couple times. It's just so big, right? And I just can't handle zones that are that big. You know, I'm kind of like an average kind of size zone guy myself. But, you know, my zones are not small, right? Like, they're not, like, tiny like that. I don't even talk to people that have tiny zones like that. But my zones are not huge and thick like that either. I just couldn't personally handle that myself. I'm just not kind of man I am. It's just not me. But I am average. Like, in my zones, zones is average. But this is not a clear zone to me. I'm not going to trade anything on USD JPY. AUD JPY, I'm still looking to sell at this resistance zone. However, I do think that the NZD JPY potential opportunity represents a little bit more high quality of a trade. It just seems like we've got more of an extension up here, and this zone's a little bit more clear. However, AUD JPY, there's nothing technically wrong with this zone. If I do take this trade, remember, I'm already in CHF JPY. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put these right next to each other, AJ and NJ. I'm already in sells on CHF JPY. So if these push up, like, right, if AUD JPY pushes up higher to set up here at this resistance zone, that's probably going to invalidate my CHF JPY trade, and I'm probably going to lose it. I'm not going to lose it mentally, but I'm going to, like, lose the trade, which would be very sad. You know, I'm already on a pretty rough losing streak. You know, but I don't know. It is what it is. So let's see what happens on AUD JPY. All right, cool. So let's go here. Next is Euro GBP, waiting for a sell at that resistance zone here. It's pretty straightforward. It's literally pretty straightforward. I'm not even going to spend more time talking about it. You're not going to make me talk about Euro GBP more. This is my YouTube channel. This is my videos. This is my trading analysis. Why are you looking at my trading analysis? You're looking at my chart right here, trying to copy my trades. JK. Yeah, I'm going to just look to sell here at resistance. I'll set an alert if we start getting close. I'll look to sell, stop above, target below. It's a pretty straightforward trade. AUD Canadian dollar. I think that we've been in a range for too long to be selling here at this resistance zone. However, it is still technically a resistance zone. You know what I think is even better than AUD Canadian dollar right now? AUD JPY. If AUD CAD pushes up there, we might have AUD JPY, which is a conversely correlated currency pair. Why the fuck am I doing this? It's like a conversely correlated currency pair. It's got the AUD CAD and then AUD JPY. If one of them goes up, the other one's likely to have pressure to follow, right? So they kind of like, it's not perfect, but like it's kind of sort of a, it's converse currency correlation. What the fuck did I do? I'm pretty unhinged today, guys. If you've made it this far in the video, put in the comment section below, what should we put? What number should we use today? Let's use 1001. Yeah, 1001. If you have made it this far in the video, put a comment below, and somewhere in your comment, put 1001 or something like that. I don't know. Let me know in the comment if you made it this far. Okay, so that's that. I'll be waiting for that on AUD JPY, AUD CAD. I'm just gonna kind of leave alone. Euro JPY, we've got two potential areas she could bounce that are both valid. However, since I'm in this situation where should I sell at the first one or should I sell at the second one, the safer option is always to just wait for the second zone. I mean, you may miss that first bounce, but that's okay. The safer option is to wait for the one that is the max distance where price would have to go without being invalidated. Because if you have your stop above this first zone right there, right, you sell right here. And again, it is technically a perfectly fine zone. We've just got leakage there. We've got, a breakout and then a break back below here. And then we've got some more leakage there. If you do this, right, it stops you out above the zone. And now you're just going to get right back into a sell basically around the same price. That's just, what the hell's your problem? Why are you doing that? Don't do that. Stop being a dumbass. Just stop. It's okay. So you just wait for the second zone, right? When you're confronted with a situation, same thing as support. If it comes here into the support zone, and then you also have another one like further down, this is not a clear zone, but I'm just, this is just for the sake of the example. Let's just pretend it was something on the chart where it had a really, really clear zone. Here we go. Here, pay no attention to what I'm doing on the left side of the screen right now. Say that price had a nice big bounce there. Okay, cool. See guys, now we got the nice clear support zone right here. All right, so the question becomes, do you buy, or you say, would you buy, hypothetically, figuratively, whatever speaking, if it got to the first zone, or would it be better to wait for the second one? Generally speaking, right? Because you can see how this perfectly legitimate price action here with this price came down there into that zone, and then we had another bounce here, and then now we had a bounce here. So if we came down here again, the second zone is just generally the less risky option. Like given from a risk structure perspective, it is better if you have a cluster of 2 or 3 zones where price could bounce at. Just wait for the one at the max threshold, like the extremes. Because if you do those, you're going to spend way less time worrying about them. The risk structure is so much clearer, and if you get stopped out, it's actually a legitimate loss and an actually legitimate. You don't feel as bad about losing as compared to you have 2 zones you could sell at, and you sell at the first one, stops above, and then it breaks and hits your stop, and then now you're dressed like a clown because you're just straight up getting into another sell right there after you just got stopped out of the first sell. And then if you lose that one, you're really going to feel like a dumbass. You're literally going to have to put a rainbow colored hair on and be a clown, like a real life actual clown, and go to little children's birthday parties. What the fuck? Yeah, so don't be a clown. Just wait for price to get to the second zone. If you ever encounter a cluster of 2 or 3 zones, that's generally the better idea. It's the safest decision from a risk structure perspective. Now, I don't always follow that exact quote unquote rule. Everything's kind of general guidelines, right? They're not really any steadfast absolutes. Nothing is black and white or right or wrong in trading. It's all just based on your subjective discretion, discernment of price action, experience, intuition, shit like that. So there's no right or wrong, and there's not everything is oh, I will never do this ever. There are some cases where there's 2 zones, and I'm bro, sell. Boom. I'm just going to enter. And sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm wrong, but I use a lot of my experience and discretion in there. It's one reason I trade live in the Telegram channel and my Discord server. Is that way you guys can see all this shit play out in real time, and you can see my actual decisions, see where the exceptions to the rules need to be painted, and you can kind of see how to manage things dynamically and fluidly. And flexibly and sexually. I'm just kidding. I can't teach you anything about that on the charts, but I will teach you, whatever my intuition and discretion is for how I manage trades given my experience over the past 10 years. So that is Euro JPY. Let's go to GBP CAD. I think a lot of these, I don't have anything marked up. I don't see anything here. The last I saw of GBP CAD, she was with a Nicaraguan hooker going across the border of Mexico, and then she was seeking refuge and asylum somewhere in Puerto Rico. That is the last I've heard from GBP Canadian dollar. In other words, it looks like she's going up at the support zone right here. She bounced at the support zone. She's going up. Support zone was something like that. Okay, she's bouncing. I think she's going to go down at some point. You know, we bounced here, made a lower high, came back into the zone. Now we've bounced. If we get past like that recent high, and then for sure, of course, that high, we'll probably see a new high on GBP CAD. But if we start bouncing right here and turning around, it's literally going to have to be around this exact price. I think we're probably going to be coming back down through this zone. That's kind of what I've thought for the past like few weeks. Let's say the past 4 candles. So for the past roughly a month here on GBP CAD. We'll have to see what she does though. This is interesting that we've got this bullish price action today. So we will see what she does. But for now, I'm out. Euro NZD. I think she's going to break below the zone. We've come into the zone, tried to bounce, gone sideways for almost 2 months. I just think at any point we're going to get broken below the zone. That is why I am not buying here at this area. But Nick, it's at support. Why don't you buy? Because it's technically at support and that's your strategy, right, sir? Yes, it is technically my strategy, right? It's technically my approach is to buy at support, sell at resistance, but there are exceptions, right? Everything is based on context. In this specific context, the fact that we've already been here and we've tried to bounce multiple times and failed to go up, normally when price comes into a level and starts hugging it and going sideways at it, it goes back to a saying that we used to say on my channel here years ago. The anthem of all the idiot trader gamblers that I used to say. Here's what it was. We used to say, and I guess we could still technically say this, it is the more a support or resistance zone is tested, the less likely it is to be respected. I'm going to say that again very slow. The more a support and resistance zone is tested, the less likely it is to be respected. Crazy, right? So it's basically meaning like, I guess a more nuanced way that accounts for the context is to be able to say the more a support or resistance zone is tested in short succession, like right in like within a brief time interval, like over the course of a few days, the more a support resistance zone is tested in a short time interval, the less likely it is to be respected, meaning it's more likely to break. The best zones you see are when price comes into the chart, hits the zone and just starts bouncing, right? So it's like we just bounce like a bouncy ball. We bounce up here, you know, we bounce like a chick that has a really big volleyball. Just bounces really nicely. So it just keeps going up. That whenever we come into a zone and we don't have that nice initial big bounce and we just start kind of like dwindling out and going sideways, the bouncy ball is losing its bounciness and then it's going to start to go here and then here and then it's going to go back in time here. No, I'm just playing. But it's just more likely to break if it hits the zone and starts going sideways. So, you know, just like Shark Tank, for that reason I'm out. CAD JPY. I see nothing here. I think the other JPY pairs are better than this one right here. This says technical setups here at these zones you can see, but I think there's just better opportunities. GBP NZD, we're in no man's land. I'll look to buy or sell either one of these zones when we get there. GBP USD, I was looking to sell at this zone, but I'm also thinking that AUD USD is going to be a little bit nicer of a trade. I haven't written off GBP USD completely yet. As a matter of fact, let me put it up here next to see. I'm going to have to choose between like the siblings here, right? It's like there's GU and there's AU, right? Both of them very similar. Let me go ahead and throw this alert right here to sell there at that resistance. They're both very similar. So what do we do, right? Which one? What do we trade, AU or do we trade GU? Like what the fuck is going on? Which one? You know, you have to kind of decide given the context and in the moment whenever they actually both set up what you believe personally subjectively is a little bit cleaner. Same thing with AUD JPY and NZD JPY. Which one? They're both fine. You must choose only one of your children and sacrifice the other. That's how I feel whenever it comes to shit like this. And you know, I don't try to pre-plan exactly what I'm going to do unless there's clearly an obvious difference. In this, it's not. AUD JPY, you know, this is a clear zone here on AUD JPY. We've bounced like 3 or 4 times at it. NZD JPY, we've already bounced twice here, could bounce a 3rd time. And then if you factor in that previous high down there, you know, he's a short high, right? He's a shorter one, right? He's a little bit shorter. We shouldn't make fun of him for being short, you know, because that's just not the type of people we are. We don't make fun of things that are short or small or even average in that case. But, you know, who's counting, right? So, but in this case, we have bounced here twice at least, maybe a 3rd time here. If we start bouncing here, these both look very nice. Honestly, they look great. Like they look perfectly fine. But, you know, so it's like, what the fuck do we do? I don't know. I've been doing this 10 years. I still haven't figured it out. I just wait until both of the setup actually set up in the moment. And then I decide right there based on, it's like a feeling and emotion. It's probably based on like all my experience presenting itself as intuition or discretion. But it's like, I just wait and I kind of look like, I think in this case, AED-JPY just looks a little bit better. But, you know, if you really can't decide, if both of them set up at the same time, you could literally just flip a fucking coin. And I mean that, like you could just pick one or the other, because ultimately both of them are probably going to do something similar, right? They're JPY pairs, and if they're both correlated, both of them are going to go up, both of them are going to go down. Very rarely will they do the opposite short term, right? So you could just pick one. It's really not that big of a deal. But yeah, same thing with AU and GU. I'll be watching both of these, but if I'm not going to take them both at the same time. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. All right, moving along here. We're almost finished. We have got GBP AUD, nothing for now. She's coming off that resistance zone. Euro AUD, nothing for now. She's coming down here towards the support zone. We could see this zone met this week. Let me go ahead and just set my alert here just in case we get that zone met this week. I am looking to buy here at support. This is a pretty clean and clear zone, right? Pretty cut and dry. Is that how to say it? Is that how you say it? You say, it's pretty cut and dry, brother. I mean, why do you say that? Why do you say cut and dry whenever something is straightforward or simple? Why do you say cut and dry? If you know the reasoning behind that, or if you want to look it up and let us know in the comments, let me know. Why the fuck do people say, this is a pretty cut and dry trade, brother? I'm like, why can't you just say it's a pretty clear trade? Bro, what's wrong with you? Cut and dry. You're going to cut the trade and dry it out? That is disgusting, dude. They're like children watching my YouTube videos. Why are you being that way? Cut and dry. That's weird. Anyway, yeah, this is a pretty clear trading opportunity. If you come in here and start bouncing at the zone, that would be absolutely terrific. It will be absolutely tremendous. The best trade. Just the greatest this country has ever seen. Super terrific. All right, USD Canadian dollar. Same thing. I'm just waiting on basically a bounce at resistance or a bounce at support. We're really far away in between. I'm not looking to do any shit like this, you know, selling here at a zone like that. I'm waiting for the clear extremes, right? And I wouldn't even call them extremes. I would just call them like the trades that are more clear, not cut and dry, but the trades that are more clear, right? The ones that are more simple, the ones that are more straightforward, the ones that are more obvious, the ones that are not cut, but they're actually together. They're not cut apart. They've got their shit together, and they're not dry. These trades are wet. This is probably one of the fucking craziest videos I've ever done on YouTube. So NZD USD, I am waiting on price to come up here to this resistance zone and start to bounce. The issue is that for GBP USD and the other USD pairs, these are closer to setting up. That's why you see NZD USD at the bottom of my watch list. The other ones are just closer to setting up. There's nothing technically wrong with this trade. And I've got my alert right there sitting there. We'll see what happens. These could invalidate GU and AU, and this could go up and set up, and then NZD USD could be cool. We're also at a little resistance zone right here, but it's one of these things where it's like, okay, you got two zones in relative proximity to each other. If we're going to be selling here at this one, right, even if we sell right at the zone, you put your stop above the zone, target below at 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. You know, if this breaks above the zone at all, I mean, even if you're using a tighter stop loss, right, you breaks above the zone, and then now you're just going to be selling again at the next zone up here, right? Better to just play it safe and just wait for price to get all the way up to that region up there. Because while this is less likely to set up, it is also a scenario where you are less likely to lose as much money because you wouldn't have had a loss first if that happens. Maybe you miss out on a profit, sure, but from a risk structure perspective, this is the safer option. And since we've got like things like GU, which is way closer, AU, which is way closer, I'm just leaving NU out. Okay, cool. Euro Canadian dollar, looking to sell at resistance. If we get back up there into resistance, I got nothing down here for support or for support anywhere. There's all these weird, strange alien zones here. These are just this is shit. This is trash. It's terrible. So that's all that. The rest of it's just crypto. I'm still waiting on crypto, waiting to add to Solana. If we can pull back down here, I'll be adding some more. It's like a 15% drop if you get back there to the zone. Bitcoin has had a nice rally, continues up today. It looks like we're probably going to be going for 82 at some point, maybe this week. So let's see what ends up happening here on crypto as well. But that's the whole Forex analysis today. If you guys happen to make it here to the end of this video, and you put your 1001 comment, put somewhere like 1001 somewhere in your comment, and I'll respond to them. I'll try to respond to most of them in like the first 1 to 2 days of the video being out. I'll either send you an audio message in response to your comment, or I'll type out a comment I mean, unless you say something really retarded that I just look at and I don't even know how to respond, then maybe I won't respond. But aside from that, if you have any questions or if you just want to say hi or whatever, just like let me know in the comments below and put 1001 in your comment. That way I know you made it all the way to the end of this insane YouTube video. Let me know what you thought about the YouTube video as well, by the way. Let me know if you like this format. All right. I love you all. I'll see you guys in the next one. Happy trading. See you guys in Telegram. Link in the description and the pinned comment. Cheers. Bye.